But if you're of the mindset of, okay, I posted this one thing to my feed, I can never talk about it again, your content becomes very patchy. And it's really hard for people to kind of sink their teeth into it and for you to start positioning yourself as a thought leader in that space. So the more you repeat and the more you repurpose, the better.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ask a Private Lender podcast. As always, I'm Lawrence from Mortgage Automator, and today we're joined by Michaela, who you've seen before, obviously. And we have a great guest for you today. And this guest is for all of the people who have emailed me and called me saying, how do I get in front of more people? How do I get more deals? I want to make more money. Amanda Kohal is with us today from the Wolf Co. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be great. For those of you who don't know Amanda and haven't seen what she has to offer, the Wolf Co. is an online platform. It's a community where people go to learn all about marketing, how to get more exposure in many ways. Amanda, do you want to give us a little bit of insight as to like what you do, how it works? I know I've seen on your site, on your social, you call people your wolfies. So I'd like to know what that is all about, and yeah, just love to hear about it.
Yeah, so my company really supports entrepreneurs and small businesses use digital marketing and social media, primarily Instagram, to build their business. So we focus on content that actually converts, either into a community of raving fans that is giving you referrals, or into actual clients and customers. It's very much supported by metrics and understanding how to read any of the metrics that you're getting on Instagram, and we're moving away from kind of like the surface level types of things that you once saw on Instagram, like number of followers, and having like a crazy, beautiful aesthetic. We're so focused on reading those metrics and just understanding people's behaviors on the platforms and how they'll convert no matter what industry that you're in. And, I've really built my community primarily on Instagram. So I'm sorry that you had to look at my website because we are updating that. It looks terrible.
I thought it was great. I thought it looked great. I was like all over your pages, your Instagram. I thought they were perfect.
Okay. Because I'm like so embarrassed by my website right now because it does not match the experience on Instagram, which is one of the things that I actually teach, is having this cohesive experience no matter where somebody happens to find you online. And my community is the Wolfies. And, it really stemmed from a membership that I created, which we can totally get into at one point in this conversation. And the name just kind of stuck. I said it one day, and they all call themselves Wolfies now. And we joke that we are borderline cult, but full-fledged pack. So I want to say that again. We are not a cult, but we are borderline,
Yeah, that's amazing. No, because I was all over your Instagram. I thought it was great. It was engaging. And a question I had was, when you started your Instagram page, was it more for fun to begin with, and you started learning about how you could drive traffic to your business and yourself, or was something right away you knew like I need to start focusing on Instagram or other social media platforms to bring in that traffic?
I've been a pretty early adopter on social media, even back in my first marketing role. Like I've been in marketing for now 12-ish years. I know my Botox would say otherwise, but I've been here for a while, and got my feet wet with Facebook and Twitter when those first came out, and just trying to navigate those platforms. And then it wasn't until I started working in the educational space that I was doing social media advertising. and Instagram had just kind of released their advertising platform. So I was getting into the nitty gritty there, as well as Facebook advertising. And I knew this is a really, really powerful platform. We already saw what Facebook kind of had done to the industry and for marketing. And I knew Instagram was going to be next. Like this space was just like crazy powerful. The amount of people that were able to grow super, super quickly and very organically was really impressive for a photo sharing app at the time. It wasn't really until they started to introduce, video, Instagram stories, that I think a lot of real conversion started to happen. Because when Instagram started, it was very much, okay, you come to my profile, I am the influencer, and you come and you like all of my content. But now it's really shifted to, you come to my profile and I'm putting out content that is like specifically for you. So it's way less about the influencer and more about the community. So I started my business on Instagram, but it was in the fitness space. So it's like not the Wolf Co that you see today, where I'm teaching people how to use Instagram and other social media platforms and just like have confidence on video and build communities. But I was doing fitness over on Instagram because that was a huge thing back in my day when it first started. And then I built this like online marketplace, kind of like a super mini Amazon, specifically for fitness, providers, if they had courses or products that they were selling. And I kind of just woke up one day and I was like, what am I doing? This doesn't even align with what I'm good at. Right. I just kind of just shifted it. And so I had to ask myself, like, what do I want to do on this space? How can I have impact? Because I know I want to build business here. And then it shifted into me taking everything I'd learned in my years of marketing to decide I want to teach people how to do what I've done, for their small business or as an entrepreneur.
Very cool. So that's how you got into marketing, which is an interesting story, actually. And I guess you didn't always know you wanted to be in that field. You're kind of doing your own thing and you kind of fell into it, which is interesting. When you're coming up with a marketing strategy, right? So regardless of the business, I'm assuming there's some sort of a template that you use that you can repeat over and over again that you've learned over the years of you doing this. Like, what are some things to keep in mind when you're putting that together? Is there something specific you can tell people listening that would help them put their strategies together?
When it comes to really any social media, first, it's just the best place, I think, to start. You don't even have to invest any money into it. You can essentially just get started that day. But it's about putting out the content and giving it enough time to marinate, and allowing, a platform such as Instagram to start to calculate some of the insights and metrics on the back end. So, I say, go out there, okay, I'm in, real estate. I want to be posting and promoting my business, posting, the different houses, different information that I've gathered, tips and tricks for new homeowners, whatever it might be. That's the type of content that I want to post. I'm not really sure the format of the content, whether it's using video. Instagram has Reels now, which is their version of TikTok, really short videos. They're really punchy for our low attention spans this day and age. Some people just want to post straight up photos, or they're just not sure. So put the content out there and try the different features that any social media platform has to offer. Once you've done that for about like 30 or 60 days, in the back end, they're gathering insights for you. So you can take a look at, the top performing posts, the ones that got the most engagement. And on every single social media platform, they label, what each is. There's information of what it means. When we say impressions, reach, all of that kind of stuff. And from there, you can quickly see what's working, what's not. Now you can really start to develop that strategy. But it's not really until you get out there and put the content out there on social that you know how the audience is going to react and how you're going to move forward in your strategy.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to be like testing different things. Like you said, format, testing video content, carousels, different graphics, like things like that, just to see on the back end, like how do people react to that and like how the content is actually doing. So you mentioned like a bunch of different things on like Instagram and social media and like those kinds of things. But like also your social media is a big part of the overall marketing strategy and goes in part with all the other things that you kind of do. So in your opinion, like in terms of the strategy and piecing social media into that, how much importance does SEO and like email marketing and those kinds of things have? And like what else should be part of that strategy? And like, how do you make it all kind of flow together?
It's everything, the searchability and how easy you can make it for people to consume your content. I think when we take a look at digital, we overcomplicate things, but even on a platform such as Instagram, if you're say, we'll start there, that's your primary platform. And then I'll talk about how you can integrate some of the other channels. There's SEO happening on the back end of Instagram. So in your bio, there are a couple of areas like your handle and the headline section of your bio that are searchable for the user. But on the back end, everything that you write, any video that you put up there, all the hashtags, the location tags, the photos, Instagram is, calculating this and piecing it together so that they can better put you into categories to help your content get found. So by using keywords in your Instagram bio, as well as using keywords and language that you use in your business overall, is really going to help your chances of being searched on Instagram. So with Instagram, it's very much in the Instagram bubble. They don't want people off the platform. They want to keep people on there. And we can kind of see how they're moving towards this all-in-one space by now really focusing on e-commerce. You can do any type of functionality over there. I'm kind of waiting for when their editing capabilities come into play as well. But the easier you can make it for them to categorize you, the faster your content and your brand awareness is really, really going to grow. Now, there's other platforms out there like a Pinterest, which is not even necessarily categorized as a social media. It's a visual search engine, or like a TikTok that has this totally new algorithm that I think all the other platforms are trying to mirror now, and is great for visibility. YouTube, and even email marketing that can really help drive traffic and drive audiences. So when I say drive traffic, I mean drive audiences and new users to your Instagram page. So while Instagram is in this bubble, there's still a ton of other platforms that can kind of penetrate that bubble and get over into Instagram. So you want to think about, okay, I've got Instagram as my primary platform. That's set up. I'm going to create my original pieces of content for Instagram. How can I now repurpose this content on a traffic driver? So I always recommend have that primary platform like an Instagram or LinkedIn, and then choose a traffic driver like Pinterest, email, or even TikTok. Clubhouse we've seen come up, which is audio, to now bring people over. And as well, you can take people from Instagram now over there.
So you want to drive, you want to drive people to your Instagram page, not your website? Like website is not a thing anymore.
It's still a thing, but more so people don't ask you, what's your website? And I'm going to search you. They'll say, what's your handle? And they'll follow you first on Instagram or a visual platform, even like TikTok, so that they can just get an idea of you. It's very much like a digital portfolio, right?
Right.
And then they'll decide, I'm going to go deeper onto the website, potentially book your services. Because when you think about it, any social media out there ranks much higher on Google, on, is Yahoo still a thing? Bing? I don't know. I just use Google.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it ranks so much higher because, they're the ones that are bringing in the money, and really working with platforms like Google. So if I'm Googling the Wolf Co., my Instagram profile is number one, as opposed to my website that nobody knows about. You almost have to like build that community and have that rapport for people to know your website, to know to search for you. But if they're searching in keywords, your Instagram profile or a Pinterest profile or TikTok or YouTube is going to be the one that shows up first because it's preferred with Google and other search engines.
So what are you gonna? So you said earlier, like when I was saying I was on your website, and you're like, oh no, not my website. I haven't. What do you want to do on your website to change it? Is it to direct it elsewhere, or is it just to make it look like all of your social medias, or what are your plans with your website?
Yeah, so I'm all about having that cohesive brand experience. So the first thing that I'm going to do on my website is really update the copy and the language, because, as you were going down the rabbit hole of my Instagram channel, you've probably noticed like I use a lot of slang. There's a lot of, there's very much a conversational tone that I have over on my Instagram page, whereas I feel like the website is drawing from corporate Amanda, and just like that side of me. And it's not the same experience that you would get over on my Instagram page, which is a high converting page. Now, I want to see that same conversion over on my website, but when people land there, it's like, is this the same person?
Right.
So first getting that cohesive experience. And then I mentioned earlier, having a really easy to navigate user experience. Not that my website is tough to find anything, but just adding a few more of the offerings that I have that I talk about on Instagram really needs to be updated over on my website. And this can really apply to any channel that you're using. So, if you're talking about a course that you're launching, for example, on Instagram, you want to be talking about this course on your website, in your email, on TikTok, YouTube, whatever platforms you're using.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. To keep everything cohesive, that's definitely important. You want to have the same brand image and everything across. The consistency matters for sure when building a brand. So what I wanted to ask you though is, when it comes to marketing, there's a lot of planning, and you talked about like reusing content and like utilizing it on different platforms and stuff, but how do you keep that all organized? Like, is there like a certain like app or calendar or structure that you use to help keep yourself organized?
Okay, I am considered a little bit old school. I don't use a lot of the apps that are out there for scheduling content.
Okay.
She
Yeah.
But
goes
I
to the
use
dollar store, she buys a calendar, and she starts writing it on the days, right?
Well, I do. I have my notebook here, and I do
Oh my
write.
gosh.
I write a lot of stuff in my notebook, but I use a Google Sheet, and I've, used a lot of the applications that the Google Suite has to really organize everything. But, in terms of content scheduling and planning, you've got great software like Hootsuite, Later, Planoly. It really just depends on how you want to navigate your business and what's easy for you that you can actually stick to. And I think that this is probably where people get tripped up on social media as well, because we see this rise of this like social media guru, and they're almost positioning it as a one size fits all formula and approach. So anybody that's new to the platform is like, oh my gosh, if I'm not posting, 5 times a week, using reels 2 times a day, have every single social media listed, I'm not going to be successful. But that might not work for you. So instead of asking questions like, how often should I be posting? It's how much capacity do I actually have to post? And if that's once a week that you can commit to sending out an email to your community or posting to Instagram, do that and stick to it, because it actually gets so much easier over time. And Michaela, you know this, that you can then start to layer on some of these new features, and really start to have this like omni-channel approach. And when I say omni-channel, I mean you're using multiple platforms. So like an Instagram, you've got your TikTok account, you've got your YouTube, you've got your email, and you're posting on these platforms regularly. It's not necessarily, it's just there and it's set up. You're very, very active in it, to just really enhance your brand awareness.
I went down a rabbit hole basically on what you're talking about on your Instagram, where the name Gary V popped out to me, and I'm like, okay, what is this about? And it was like a 180, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Right. So I started typing it in, and it's kind of what you're saying, right? Like he has this thing where, what is it? You have to post in like the top 10 trending. You have to like start a conversation or give your opinion, but you're saying that you don't really have to do that anymore. That's not a thing.
No, and don't get me wrong, I love Gary Vee, but I also loved poking holes in his $1.80 strategy. It was something like you needed to engage with. So you needed to comment on about 100 people's posts a day. And these weren't necessarily comments where you're trying to start a conversation. This could even be like 2 words, 1 word, but just kind of getting that brand exposure. While this did work at one time and it was a fantastic strategy, it's so dated now, because platforms like Instagram are built on communities and having conversations. And I say that because Instagram has put a lot of effort into their messaging platform, which is the DMs. And, you know, Instagram's owned by Facebook. Facebook has put a lot of effort into WhatsApp, which is also owned by Facebook, as well as their messenger platform. And what happens in messenger platforms? Chats with your community, with your friends, with your family. So that type of behavior should really be mirrored over on Instagram, that if you're just popping by and saying nice post, how is that like making you stand out, or really adding value to the conversation? So something that I'll teach my Wolfies in my community is binge engagement. And it's more so, I only talk to like 5 to 7 people a day, if I'm going out to engage with them, but I'm going down a rabbit hole of their content on their page. And I'm literally going back maybe even to like 2018 posts, and like just like having these, leaving these comments that because I'm genuinely interested in the content, as opposed to just a task on the list of like, well, Gary Vee told me I needed to engage with this many people a day. Okay, did my engagement for the day, but you're not even present or like doing it because it's something that resonates with you. You're just doing it to do it.
Yeah. And it's pretty transparent. I mean, like every time I see a post like that, I'm just like, you know, what is this? Right. Like, I know they didn't even read it. I know they don't care. Like it's, you know, so no, I completely get where you're coming from, and things are changing so rapidly, right? Like on, you know, new platforms come up, they change their algorithms, new things work, old things don't work. You know, what are some new effective things that you've noticed on like an Instagram to get that traffic in? So, you know, I mean, you answered some of it, which is like have great conversations with people or reach out with some sort of intent to discuss what is actually being posted there. Is there anything else that's, you know, new or interesting that you could share, or is it kind of just status quo, and just as long as you believe in the things you're saying, then that'll work for you?
No, you definitely need to have some sort of an idea. So day 1 on Instagram, as we spoke, until about day 60, you're putting out content and you're seeing what sticks. The insights are really going to give you that feedback. Once you have that, you're starting to double down on the content that works. But the areas where you're going to find the conversion are in places like Instagram stories or over in the DMs, because how like the content funnel kind of works is the feed is very public, right? Anybody can kind of come across your feed and you're just scrolling through. So any content that you're putting there should be more so of like a higher level. so that you can use platforms like stories and features like stories to go deeper. Because in the stories, it's connected to the DMs. So you can immediately have that one-on-one conversation as well. You can start to share more of that like behind the scenes type of content. So like if you're getting started, have at least 9 to 12 posts on your page that people can land on. Again, we don't know when they're going to find your profile, if your Instagram profile is even the first one that they see, but have content that they can land on, they can consume, and that they can start to engage with. Over in your stories, you're essentially extending that conversation, or adding an extra nugget of information from the post into your stories, because you're delivering the content in a very different platform. So Michaela, this is answering your question about the repurposing of the content. If you can get those 9 to 12 posts up, you can essentially stretch the content for months and months and months, because Instagram has so many different media formats for you to communicate the message. And I'll give you an example. I'm an avid story watcher. Michaela, I'll watch your stories before I even go over onto your page. Again, I don't know where you're going to see my content first. So I want to make sure that that message is cohesive with whatever features I'm using over on Instagram. And if the more and more you can kind of repurpose, the easier you're making it for people to, fall in love with your personal brand, consume your content, and essentially like navigate your page to become a client or a customer. But if you're of the mindset of, okay, I posted this one thing to my feed, I can never talk about it again, your content becomes very patchy. And it's really hard for people to kind of sink their teeth into it, and for you to start positioning yourself as a thought leader in that space. So the more you repeat and the more you repurpose, the better. And I know it's scary because you really do think like, shit, I'm repeating myself, but, and it sounds mean, no one's paying as much attention as we think they are. So
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and again, I know very little, right? Michaela knows, I don't know, but you're talking about DMs, but like, do you immediately just write people in, like direct message them, or is it like you post on their posting first, like publicly, and then you kind of continue the conversation, I guess, not offline, but like as a direct message, like, or do you just immediately just write them privately and start having conversations?
No, I usually like, I think of it like dating. Not that I've like been on a date in forever, because I'm married with my husband for like 8 years, but you got to think about it as like building up that rapport. You
Right.
don't just like go in and shoot your shot right away, because you can miss so many opportunities without having that good foundation. So, getting your feet wet a bit on their feed, consuming some of the content on the feed. And then if you want to go in over into stories, the easiest way to get into somebody's inbox is replying to a story.
Right.
Because again, those two are connected. So I would say if you want to just go straight into the inbox, reply to a story.
Interesting. I never thought about that. Yeah. There's nowhere to write on a story unless you're messaging.
Exactly. And it's personal, right? It's now one-on-one, which is why a lot of the conversions happen on stories. They're so much deeper in the funnel, because these people are like coming back to watch your stories every single day. They're warmer of an audience than somebody who has just started following you and is only consuming your content on the feed. That's why I said, like, you want to think about posting content that's a little bit broader and higher level on your feed, and then taking it deeper into the stories. If you can get like fans of yours in your stories, the conversion and the length of time it takes for somebody to convert is so much shorter, because it becomes that personal one-on-one interaction.
That makes sense. Do you see people making a lot of mistakes with their marketing, and like, is there stuff that people should avoid doing?
Yeah. I don't know if we have enough time for that, but again, it's just not a one size fits all type of platform, which I think is probably the biggest mistake. Us thinking that there's this magical checklist of everything we need to do, whether it is in email marketing, social media, whatever platforms that you're using, but it's not like that. It's so much more based on, how your community is reacting to your content, as well as the capacity that you have to keep up with these platforms. Again, post once a week if that's all you can handle right now. The faster you get at it, the more you can just layer on. But that is definitely the biggest mistake. And following like the guru's advice that this is the only way to grow. And these are the only things that you can be doing. You really need to do a little bit of work of like, again, what's that capacity that I have for this? Does this actually make sense for my business? And I'll give you an Instagram example here. So I have a friend and he is a video producer. When he first started posting on Instagram, he was posting a lot of text heavy content. There's this feature called carousels on Instagram. It basically allows you to add up to 10 photo posts or even video posts in one. And he was posting a lot of text and copy on his page. And we had this conversation and I was like, but you're in video production. I'm like, where's the video on your page? And he's like, well, I heard that if I post quotes and, stats and stuff, I could really grow my following. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense for your industry because your actual outcome of your product is video. So you should actually be posting in video format and showcasing that skill set. So things like that. And whatever video media you can get your paws on, sink your teeth into that, because his output and what he's essentially charging people for is video production. So it makes no sense for him to be posting, text, quotes, those types of things, which a guru told him was the way to grow on Instagram. If you post a lot of quotes, inspirational type of content, you're really, really going to grow your platform, but it doesn't match up with what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Do the platforms ever release like, this is your best path to success on our specific platform? They don't.
I know we laugh because it's like, I wish.
Yeah, exactly.
Like why I asked, right? So Amanda, earlier you said like these platforms are trying to take TikTok's algorithm to figure out a way that their users could gain more followers and make more connections. But wouldn't they know the best way on their own platform to accomplish that? And why wouldn't they tell their users that if their overall goal is to make sure that their users get more connections and conversations and conversions?
So actually, I should say the head of Instagram, Adam Masseri, has actually been doing Q&As and live sessions where he is updating people. There's actually become a lot more transparency. And he won't flat out say, you need to be posting this many reels a day or posting this much to your, he's said things like, we're now putting a focus and a priority on video content. So it's up to us now to put that together of, oh, I should be getting on lives, reels, posting videos to my feed, and, even getting into stories. That's a really good question though, because their mandate, any social media, is to keep people on their platform for as long as possible, especially Instagram, because, a lot of their income comes from advertising. They want people to be clicking on those links so they can get a kickback when somebody buys the product, and people keep advertising on their page. And now e-commerce on Instagram has become huge. So it would be in their best interest to just tell us what to do. But that's where companies like mine come into place, where I'm like, okay, you're in the real estate industry. Here's how you can go about approaching your Instagram. Here's what a schedule can look like for you if you don't have a lot of time. Or here's what a schedule can look like for you if you're going all in on this platform. Maybe you've even hired a team to start executing on that. So there's many different ways where you can find this information, but you've got to essentially do the research yourself.
I was looking at your programs, like the breakdown. I was like, holy shit, this is no joke. Like, this is for real.
Lots of
Like,
good
there's a
stuff in there.
lot. Yeah. Like, and I guess you don't really know how much work goes into it, how much thought is put into it. And it's not like you're going to wake up on a Tuesday and be an expert. Like, you
Yeah.
really do need help and guidance to get you to where you want to go. And I do think a program like yours is a great place to start. I mean, it's not overly expensive for the results that you're going to get back, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely.
But
Yeah.
it's one of those things, because look, my parents cannot explain what I do to save their life. Neither can my friends. They're like on the other end of the spectrum when it comes to social media. And, you know, even there, just like, how did you learn like this platform? Like, how long did it take you? And I'm just more so of the mindset, like it's one of those things that only experience can really teach you, and getting in there and picking up on the nuances, if that makes sense, because it's kind of hard to explain. But you know, just like your area of expertise, there's things that only you really know because you've been doing it for so long, and you just understand how people move in that industry and in that space.
Yeah, I also think it's a benefit that because you work with so many people, you see the results of all different types of industries. So rather than, you have a friend that is giving you advice, they only know about their one industry that they're working on, whereas you, I mean, you run the gamut and you help all sorts of different entrepreneurs. So definitely a
Yeah.
benefit.
Yeah, definitely. Circling back to analytics, I know you talked about how important it is to look at your metrics, whether that's on social media, email marketing. Sometimes it can be really hard to tell, like, if your efforts are paying off, like with your overall marketing strategy. Social can be super frustrating at times. So how do you measure your ROI, and like what kind of things in the analytics should you be looking for?
So I always relate it to what is the goal. So if you are starting out on Instagram, your goal is most likely going to be brand visibility, and you want to grow your following, of course, but an organic and a real following, no bots, none of that, people that are actually going to engage with you. So you're going to want to take a look at insights like your reach, which means the amount of people that have seen your content, as well as content interactions. And you can essentially, divide the two and figure out what your engagement percentage is from your reach with content interactions. But those are the two to look at. If you're a little bit further along in your journey, and I'll use my account as an example, I had the goal 1 month to increase the amount of DMs that I was getting and the amount of story responses that I was getting, because again, the two are connected. So I wasn't posting to my feed, and I went all in on focusing on my stories and putting together, call to actions in my stories, getting them to answer the questions boxes in the stories, or the polls, the quizzes, whatever it might be, to get them used to taking action on my account. So I almost like eased them in to sending me more DMs. And that's what I was really honing in on. But going back to the common mistakes, when we get on a platform, it's like we want to do all the things all at once. And we're like, I need every single number to be green. And if one of them is red, I'm a failure and I suck at this. But you really need to like hone on where you are in your journey and what are the goals attached to where you are in that journey. And that's how you can kind of make that progression forward. But doing it all at once is just like setting you up for a good cry in the shower. essentially.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. You mentioned brand visibility. And so brand recognition is really important on social or even in your own like very general marketing strategy. But like brand recognition is really hard to measure as well. So like how important is brand recognition? Like what importance would you say that has?
It's really, really important, especially if you're a personal brand or you're trying to position yourself as that go-to expert in your industry. And I mean, some of the things that you can kind of take a look at when it comes to, in terms of metrics for that, is the saves and the shares of your content. Those go hand in hand with, thought leadership pieces of content and you providing that high value to your audience. But keeping that in mind, when you're just getting started, you're figuring out what's working for your audience. Once you do, again, I know I sound repetitive, but we talked about the importance of repeating yourself, is double down on that. Maybe quotes do work for you. Maybe video content does work for you. Do more of that, because that's how you're going to be kind of known in the social space as the go-to for that particular topic and in that particular industry. Everyone kind of has like their shtick, right? Like even if you do, 3 other things beyond the main thing that you post about, that's what people will primarily come to your page for. And then in places like your stories or over in the DM, you can start to unpack some of the other layers and levels of your business where they can really get to know you.
All very interesting. Like it's no, I mean, it's definitely, you got to have a strategy. You have to know what you're doing. It's important at the end of the day. It's not about, putting a billboard somewhere and hoping someone calls you, right? It's much greater than that, obviously. Let's talk about the Wolf Co though, because that's why you're here. And I want people to know what you're doing. Obviously, we know you're an expert in the marketing field. What kind of services do you offer clients that come to you looking for help? And is there anything specific that you really specialize in? It sounds like it's Instagram is your go-to, but yeah, like what do you offer?
My bread and butter is definitely Instagram. And the primary offer that I have is my membership. But it's not just teaching Instagram, because I bring in other experts, whether they are in the podcast space, partnerships, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever it might be, to teach in their zone of genius. So when you come into the Wolf membership, this is kind of like track 1 of being a Wolfie. You get, the lowdown on how to optimize your account, how to really grow on the Instagram space. But if you're using any of those other traffic driving platforms, as we talked about, you can get courses on all of that. So it's really all encompassing, but where I show up and I teach is specifically for Instagram. And now for those that are looking for more of that one-on-one type of interaction, a done for you service, I do strategies for clients where my entire team comes together and we build your strategy, we create your content, we schedule your content, and we help you build your community. So you focus on showing up for that live or delivering the content in your course, whatever your zone of genius is. So those are my 2 primary offerings. There are others, but you guys can find that information in my stories.
Don't go to her website.
Yeah,
she doesn't want you on her website. Don't go to the website. Go to her Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
At the wolf with an e.co.
At the wolf with an e.co. That's how you can get in touch with Amanda. Amanda, this was a lot of fun. I think you've said it all.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Really, if you're listening to this, I know we mainly deal with people in the private lending industry, but if you want to understand how to get yourself in front of people, how to have people reach out to you, have interactions, and just get more business, go to see Amanda on her Instagram page at thewolf.co, and just have a conversation. And hopefully it'll go somewhere. I think she's great. If you've listened to this whole podcast, then you know she's great. So Amanda, we really appreciate you stopping by, and hopefully we'll talk to you again.
Thank you.